It is the Labor Day Classic, the first of two back-to-back games between Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. If you can't be in the stands, get comfortable, and we will provide you with a front row seat. To call the game today, let's take you upstairs. Here are Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter.
Thank you, Melonheads. Is there anywhere you'd rather be on Sunday of Labor Day? And there is the weather, cool but comfortable, that typical prairie breeze buffeting Mosaic Stadium. Charles Roberts comes into this classic off his best game of the year, 145 against Hamilton, and only 63 away from a major milestone, 10,000 CFL rushing yards. Anton McKenzie leads the league in rushing, and you can see he's focused on stopping Charles Roberts today.
Yeah, it creates a great matchup. Anton McKenzie leading the league in tackles against Charles Roberts, and it's Labor Day, not just a football game, but a weekend-long festival and celebration. It's like a mini version of the Grey Cup and all the things that go along with that week. It's the biggest game of the year for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, without question.
Always a classic, and this year a potential turning point game. Bombers trying to put together the first win streak of the year. These Rider fans don't want to see their team drop 3 in a row. They have won the last 3 meetings of the Labor Day Classic here at Mosaic. And just to make it even better, a Grey Cup rematch. Away we go, Jimmy Borum to kick things off. And it's the former Rough Rider, Jason Armstead, with the return. And he's pushed out by Mike McCullough. And already a little tussle behind the scenes as Kevin Glenn will lead Winnipeg's offense onto the field.
And you heard the Melonheads talk about it. Charles Roberts coming off his best game a couple weeks ago, but Kevin Glenn is together with Milt Stegall, Derek Armstrong, Terrence Edwards for the first time this season. We'll see if they can start to click early on in this football game. Need to take the crowd out of it. There is the offensive line, the card in the middle.
Starting lineup brought to you by Holiday Inn Hotels. Look again at Holiday Inn from the 35. Bombers go to work, and Charles Roberts has the football, and he'll kick it outside. And Roberts stopped as he crosses the line of scrimmage. Not much there on the opening play as they're revved up.
Team defense, not a lot of huge names in this defense, but they play together as a unit. Shante Williams gets his second start at defensive end for John Chick, who's getting closer. Linebacking core, you mentioned it, Chris. Anton McKenzie leads the CFL in tackles. He'll be matched up on Charles Roberts. And I look for the veteran Eddie Davis in the secondary to make a big play. Doesn't have a pick yet. Maybe today's the day.
Kitwana Jones limited the gain to 1, 2nd and 9. Big rush, and down goes Glenn. Shante Williams up the middle for the first sack. And almost a knockout punch early.
Inside stunt as the Saskatchewan Roughriders don't make it too fancy, but what they do is they bring Shante Williams around, and he comes right down Main Street. Kevin Glenn does not have a chance, and with one arm, Glenn goes down. And that just got the crowd in it even more.
Despite the fact they were beaten in their last game, Shante Williams graded out well. And they like his size at defensive end. There's Weston Dressler back. And Alexis Cerno with the wind at his back. Not a great kick. Dressler all the way up to the 45, and he'll get near midfield. Great field position for Michael Bishop to make his Saskatchewan Rough Rider debut.
They talked to the offensive coaching staff for the Riders. They said about half the playbook, because Michael Bishop is familiar with some of the Ken Miller terminology. He'll have Wes Cates, the key to their offense, all season long in the backfield. There's the receiving core with Andre Childs at slot back for the 2nd straight game, and then the offensive line with the veteran Gene Makowski in his 228th football game in Saskatchewan.
Let's see what Michael Bishop does. Play action, and a pass that skips in front of the intended receiver, Corey Grant. Incomplete.
Pressure on this Winnipeg defense will be on their defensive ends. That's Tom Canada and Gavin Walls on the outside. We've already seen in the very first play Bishop try and push the ball to the corner, to the edges. There's the linebacking core, Joe Lobendon in the middle, and Ian Logan goes back to safety. Kelly Malvo back to halfback because of ratio issues.
6 receivers out, 2nd and 10. And they're going deep for Dressler. And Malbrough's got a pick. His first ever as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. Flags down as Malbrough's brought down at the 49-yard line. Anthony Malbrough, in his 32nd game as a Bomber, at last has his first Winnipeg interception.
Well, he's in perfect position on Wes Dressler, but he also gets some help from Ian Logan, which was a question mark coming in. The coaching staff in Winnipeg loved the game from Kelly Malvo at safety, but watch the hit that Logan puts on Dressler to take him out of that play.
Number 44 Winnipeg, 10-yard penalty, first down.
There's the catch from Malbrough, and Dressler was fighting for the ball until Logan took him out.
Tom Canada called on the illegal block, so the ball marched back to the Bomber 23-yard line. Dressler getting attention, and Kevin Glenn goes back to work on offense. That's all Saskatchewan needs, another injury to one of their receivers. 5 receivers out, short drop, Kevin Glenn. There's Derek Armstrong, who was the most dangerous weapon a year ago in this game when he caught passes for 205 yards.
Yeah, he did. You know, just go back that, and that's not the start that Michael Bishop wanted for the Saskatchewan Roughriders to come in. He tried to roll out. He throws an interception in his very first series, and you heard Matt Dunnigan say in his conversation with Ken Miller, they talked about the fact that it won't be a real long leash for Michael Bishop. Now, I'm not talking about one series, but going to watch him because they don't want this to be an awful experience for Bishop with such limited practice time.
Gain of 6, 2nd and 4. Kevin Glenn through into traffic. And incomplete. James Johnson was there, closest man to the ball, and of course he was the ball hawk in last year's Grey Cup game.
You know, it's not a surprise in a game like this with this much emotion to see the defenses stand up first in this football game, because that's where the emotion, you can really take advantage of it. Defense is all about hustle, emotion, being in the right place, but rallying to the football. Both defenses obviously winning the battle so far.
So Dressler is out. Vincent Marshall has to step in to handle the return duties. 2nd consecutive 2-and-out for the Bombers. And Marshall has it from his 41. Good return, cross midfield. And again, Bishop, great field position. He'll start at the Bomber 51. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people. Well, not much from the offenses yet. A couple of 2-and-outs for Winnipeg, and a second play interception tossed by Michael Bishop, but he gets good field position to start again. At the 51, Wes Cates roll left side, crashing down to the 44. And close to 7 for Wes Cates.
And that's how you settle down Michael Bishop in his first start. The Saskatchewan Roughrider jersey on. He throws an interception in his first series. The best way to settle him down is to go to the guy, Wes Cates.
Cates with only 10 touches in both games last year against Winnipeg. He has obviously been a much busier back this season. 2nd and 3. Here's the option. The toss. Cates. And he'll be close to the first down. It was closed down. Ian Logan moved up from the safety spot. Cam Hall was there, and so was the active middle linebacker, Joe Lobendon.
Well, that puts a bind on Gavin Walls. A lot of this that's why they have Michael Bishop. Gavin Walls just there to the left of your screen, and he has to make a choice now as he comes up the field. Does he take the pitch in Wes Cates, or does he take the quarterback in Michael Bishop? Takes the quarterback. That means Bishop makes the pitch, and Cates is close to the first down. Don't be surprised if you don't see Saskatchewan use Michael Bishop's athletic ability to push the edges and to try and get some pressure on Gavin Walls and on Tom Canada.
So they are short. And a 3rd down gamble upcoming. As Saskatchewan moves into the wind in this opening quarter. Well, I know the Bombers have talked about Kerry Joseph, as a Saskatchewan quarterback, really put pressure on their defense with his legs. And will Michael Bishop, who can do that, will he be as committed to running the football as Kerry Joseph was as the Rough Rider quarterback?
Of course, that puts the pressure on the D-line, because if Bishop is running the edges,
pushing ahead and then bouncing off the right side.
you see the way they attack the line there, Chris. It's Saskatchewan Roughriders break the huddle and they hustle up to the line, maybe catch the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And they're not quite ready, not in their stance just yet. They attack the line, and Bishop goes right out of there and takes that quarterback seat. They just come up, hustle quickly to the line, and then bam, they take that ball and get the first down.
But Lobanot over the top made it interesting. And we found out on Friday night how tough it is to get a yard.
Oh, yeah. Defining moment possibly for the Montreal Alouettes, and a big win against the Lions on Friday night.
So we have our first down of the game. And Bishop back to pass, dumps it off. Henry Childs out of the backfield. And Childs has a catch and a first down. Let's check in at the Rough Rider bench with Jock Climby.
Hey, fellas, I just had a chance to talk to Eric Tillman, who was talking to the team doctor. Apparently, Weston Dressler is expected to go back in a couple of plays. He just got his bell rung. He needs to settle down. Obviously, on that interception, it's not the kind of start that Michael Bishop wanted. It was straight cover one, man-to-man. He had him down the seam, didn't look off the safety, and it's the safety that came over and made the play on Weston. Let's hope he's going to be back in the game soon.
That was Ian Logan, made a nice hit on Wes Dressler.
13 to Childs, back to Cates, and he's taken down by Ike Charlton. Good defensive play by Charlton, the Sam linebacker.
I was going to mention that if they continue to move Bishop and try and get him outside, what has to happen there is that Tom Canada and Gavin Walls will start to widen a little bit to make sure they contain Michael Bishop, and that will open up these gaps in between and into the middle. So that's where the linebackers come in, because they'll attack those gaps with Wes Cates, and that's where Ike Charlton and Cam Hall and the rest of the linebackers for the Bombers have to fill those holes.
Jerome Haywood out, Pierre-Luc Glabe in as an extra linebacker. 2nd and 9. Pass complete, but Cates won't get to the first down stick. Taken out at the Winnipeg 22-yard line.
Up to the 20-yard line before being forced out of bounds.
Lots of movement by the Winnipeg defense to see if they can maybe confuse Bishop. Watch Gavin Walls to the left of your screen here. You see he starts out in his normal position, slides back. Now he's down the middle. You don't often see Gavin Walls inside like that, and they come with the blitz, and Bishop does recognize and get the ball out of his hands, just short of the first down.
Kanji on to attempt a 27-yard field goal. Good numbers on the year. Into a wind, which shouldn't be a problem distance-wise, but could be tricky for accuracy. No problem for Kanji. First blood Saskatchewan in their Labor Day Classic. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by the 2008 GMC Sierra. Professional grade. So midway through the first quarter, Saskatchewan strikes first. Plenty of blue here, too.
Yes, always is on the Labor Day weekend.
Enhancing the atmosphere of the weekend.
Which is why the Winnipeg Blue Bombers don't even stay in the city anymore when they come for this football game. They stay out in Moose Jaw, about an hour out of the city.
Bombers start at their 35, wind at their back. And Charles Roberts with the football. Looking for a seam, and he's closed down and pushed back, and maybe 3 for Charles Roberts as he gets a little bit closer to 10,000 CFL rushing yards.
Very elite group there if he can make that, which he should, with just over an average game for him. But the good news for Charles Roberts is the fact that Kevin Glenn calling his own plays 2 weeks ago involved Charles Roberts. He had his best game, and it was Kevin Glenn who called his number.
Had 30 touches last week, 23 carries, 7 catches, the most in 40 starts. So he was busy. 2nd down, and here's Armstrong with the hit screen and a first down. The initial first down for the Bombers up at their 50-yard line.
Look at a first down for the Blue Bombers up to their
Dan Goodspeed makes the block here to allow Kevin Glenn time to fake it one way and come back the other. There's Dan Goodspeed to the right of your screen, and he comes out and makes the block. There he is right there on Eddie Davis. There's the block, the key block that you need on that receiver screen to pick up the first down.
Armstrong, 13 catches Labor Day a year ago. Glenn, quick hitter. And that one falling short, intended for Terrence Edwards, back after missing a pair of games with a rib injury. And again, all the ammunition back in the Winnipeg lineup.
Yeah, and important here in the first quarter for the Bombers to try and get a drive here. This is a big second and long for Kevin Glenn because they're starting to even already take the crowd out of a little bit with ball possession. Surviving the first quarter in this game is real important for the Bombers. And in fact, try to get a lead and try to take the crowd out of it a little bit if you can.
2nd and 10. Glenn under pressure, gets away from James Patrick, and now throws complete. And there's Milt Stegall with a big catch as Kevin Glenn stayed composed under pressure.
Kevin Glenn extends this play. He should have been caught in the backfield by James Patrick, number 14, down at the bottom of your screen. He's coming off the edge, and he is clean. But Glenn just steps up, buys himself a couple of extra time. And there's Milt Stegall, the inside guy, number 3 receiver. His pattern was the out. There he is there. Now he comes back in, slides in, and there he just presents a target for Kevin Glenn.
He's now 97 yards away from becoming the all-time leading receiver yardage-wise. Off the left side, Charles Roberts brought down at the 41-yard line. So 2 major milestones for the Bombers as secondary storylines today. Milt Stegall looking to pass Alan Pitts, and Charles Roberts, as we've mentioned, after 10,000 rushing yards.
We will keep close track of that. That is the exclusive club. Johnny Bright, Damon Allen, George Reed, and Mike Pringle. Only other 4 players to get 10,000 yards or more.
2nd and 5. Glenn has a completion, has a first down. And there's Robbie Bryant with his initial catch. Bryant, 2nd in the league in receiving, but just 1 catch in the last start against the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Robbie Bryant right there. Now watch the quick pickup. Blitz pickup from Robbie Bryant as he's right on the top. He sees the blitz coming, the safety's coming, and he runs that quick out.
6-yard gain for Bryant. Another first down. Bombers marching. Graham Bell into the game. Stegall to the sidelines. Bell lines up as a wideout. Back inside the other way, Roberts. And Roberts down to the 29-yard line, where he's brought down by Sean Lucas.
There's the balance I was talking about from Kevin Glenn a couple of weeks ago. When Kevin Glenn called his own plays, he was 60% pass, 40% rush, which is almost perfect balance, especially in Canadian Football League. There's obviously going to be a little more pass in your offense, but if you can get it that close, 60-40, you're bang on. It looks like Winnipeg is very close to that as well. 60-40 so far today.
This new OC in Winnipeg's getting the job done. 2nd and 5, short drop Glenn, looking to the sidelines, and there is Derek Armstrong, another catch in front of Omar Morgan on the corner.
And all of a sudden it feels like just a regular game with this respect to the crowd noise. The crowd noise after this drive from Winnipeg has gone way down. And that's what the Bombers really need to do. It starts to be sort of a normal football game, because if the Saskatchewan Roughriders get to make some big plays early on, boy, this crowd gets going, and that's momentum that's awful hard to stop.
9th play of the drive, less than 3.5 minutes to go. Opening quarter at Mosaic Stadium. And a flag down. And there must have been some early movement on that Bomber offensive line.
Procedure, Winnipeg, number 53, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Center Dominic Picard.
Well, it's an offensive line that the Bombers basically get their starters back. I mean, Alexander Gauthier and Brendan Labatt, who, by the way, had to get 26 tickets for this game.
Weyburn native. Rookie left guard, who Doug Barry says is a future all-star. 1st and 15 after the penalty, and they screen it to Roberts. He cut it back. Maurice Lloyd waiting and brings him down at the 27-yard line, so not much there for Charles Roberts on that grab.
Screen play is probably the toughest play to execute against the Saskatchewan defense because they rally to the ball as good, if not better, than any defense in the CFL. Mentioned off the top, they don't have a lot of big names. Anton McKenzie becoming a big name in the league, but they just rally to the football, get 12 hats on it. You can see the game tackling quickly from the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
In a nasty mood after allowing 97 points in the last 3. Here's Kevin Glenn taking off, and Glenn will have a first down, at least close to it. And we have not seen Kevin Glenn run that much this year. His longest run, just 3 yards until he took off there.
Well, in fact, you started to wonder if the knee brace that Kevin Glenn wears, and since he was injured, that he may have lost a lot of his mobility, but boy, does he show it there. I mean, that is the first time all season that we've seen it. And he looked pretty good and pretty smooth running the football.
Going to be short, however. He did come up a yard or 2 short on the spot.
But that's also the Labor Day weekend, where he doesn't hook slide, takes off and tries to run for that first down, and it's kind of that do whatever it takes type of atmosphere out there.
Alexis Cerna comes in. He has hit on just 4 of his last 10. Sean Lucas is down, so Cerna's going to have to think about this a little longer. He had a busy time off, but we'll get to that in a moment. We'll step out 3-0. Saskatchewan leading. Just under 2 minutes remaining, first quarter, awaiting a field goal attempt at 22 yards from Alexis Cerna, who got engaged and also visited with his old kicking coach during the Winnipeg break of 17 days between games.
And has a new holder.
Yes, and R.J. Franklin for the injured Jamie Stoddard. Doug Barry says that will not be an issue. Let's see if he's right. Not an issue at all. And right through to tie this game. Minute 42 on the clock here in the opening quarter. Tie game, patrolling the Winnipeg sidelines is our quarterback, Matt Dunnigan.
Oh, and see a big sigh of relief here on the Winnipeg sidelines as Alexis Cerna kicked a field goal. Exact situation Coach Barry was looking for. If in fact they had to kick field goals, a short one to get Alexis off right. And certainly that was the case here. And everybody collectively just let the air out. They feel good about it, tying this game up, taking the crowd out of the game.
But a good start. Bombers have been a slow starting team this year. They're average 3 points per game first quarter. On that so far today, Wes Cates testing the heart of that Winnipeg defense and pushing the pile up close to the 40 and 5 yards.
Well, Alexis Cerna, Matty's right. They wanted to get him that short one because it gives him some confidence. Chris, you mentioned he went back and worked a little bit with his kicking coach, and that he got some confidence there. They wanted a short one to get him started and get him going. It's been a tough place to play if you're a kicker. Doug Barry is hard on his kickers, and that's probably saying it mildly. And you have to keep your confidence up, and because it's like a golf swing. You make one bad one, you got to let it go.
Second and a long 5. Bishop on a roll. Tom Canada in pursuit. But Bishop hooks up with a Darius Bowman. And a big first down in the Bomber territory in the 45-yard line.
This is big play in both ends. First of all, it's big that Bishop could get out there and keep working. There's Bowman on the outside, but your receiver in a scramble situation has to continue to fight to find a place to get up. Watch, he's on the sideline and he's caught there, so he goes in behind of Amos. And Bishop, running out of room with Tom Canada chasing him down, somehow threw it across his body and got it to Bowman.
26-yard gain for Darius Bowman, who seemed to have pretty good chemistry with the last quarterback, Marcus Crandall. Wes Cates dancing and then tripped up over the sprawling tackle Wayne Smith to limit the damage.
And talk about offensive lines too. Saskatchewan gets their real starting group back. They get Glenn January and Wayne Smith back in their normal spots, and Jeremy O'Day, Gene Mikowski, of course. So they've got that O-line back the way they want it as well. With all the injuries they've had, most of them in the receiving corps.
Cates with over half the yardage for Saskatchewan in their last game against Edmonton. He had 133 yards of offense. Saskatchewan held to 261. 2nd and 6, and they dump it off. Big room for Cates to Rumble. Down to the 24, cut down on the play by Javon Johnson, the former Rough Rider, on the corner. That's the final play of this opening quarter at Mosaic. Score tied, but the Rough Riders are marching. First quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Equal in first downs when you look at this game after the first quarter, and some passing yards starting to accumulate for Michael Bishop with Saskatchewan. Got rid of those jitters early on. I mean, the first series didn't look very good for him when he throws one into the ground, and that's an incompletion, and then the very next pass, an interception. But since then, he's played a lot better.
That was an ominous start, but they are suddenly putting a drive together where we've seen a little bit of Wes Cates, and maybe the heat is off Wes Cates the way they have engineered this offense so far.
Well, that's what they wanted to do, and we're seeing that is to get Michael Bishop on the edge and running outside, and then that opens up things in the middle for Wes Cates, and it creates an opportunity to play action as well.
So now the wind at their back after an 18-yard play to Cates. Fake to Cates. Bishop throws. It's complete to Michael Palmer's got a catch. There's an old Argo connection. Bishop to Palmer. And a first down for the Rough Riders.
This is the play action I'm talking about, and Palmer is going to be the beneficiary as he comes off and he's working outside on Ike Charlton, the linebacker who kind of drops in his zone and then has to go deep. So that opens up that underneath route for Michael Palmer, and Bishop hooks up with him.
Well, the Rough Riders were not in the red zone in the last two games. 12 for 20 on the year, touchdowns inside the 20. Quarterback draw, Michael Bishop taking a page out of the Kerry Joseph book. Touchdown! Now, did they blow the whistle? We do have a touchdown signal. I heard a whistle when he was held up at the 1.
Well, it was a delayed signal on the touchdown. There was the touchdown signal from the outside. The officials are still talking about it. Bishop fought his way in, and that's how strong Michael Bishop is, because he was held at about the 3-yard line, and I thought I heard a whistle also.
Now they're calling it a touchdown. Well, it sounded like the whistle went just prior to the surge, but it is a touchdown. Point after's been added, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders have a 10-3 lead. Well, these fans will be excited with what they saw on that last drive. Michael Bishop caps it with a 9-yard run, 6 plays, 75 yards in under 3 minutes. So Saskatchewan can take the lead.
Yeah, and that whistle happened just as he was crossing the line, so the Bombers did not let up anyway, and that's a touchdown, and the first one for Michael Bishop, in a play that looked a lot like the one that Kerry Joseph scored last year in the Labor Day game.
That one in the final minute to win it. And here's Armstead, the former Rough Rider. Well, to enhance the return game for the Bombers. A pretty good run up across the 30, 22 yards on the return. And Kevin Glenn goes back to work, 390 yards passing in last year's Labor Day Classic.
200, as you mentioned off the top, to Derek Armstrong, which he hasn't got to just yet in this football game, but Armstrong at about 80%. Miltstiegel not perfect, and neither really is Terrence Edwards, but they are all in the lineup, all ready to go, and you can play through that pain, especially on this weekend.
Armstrong had a calf injury sustained this week, wrapped yesterday. fumble. Roberts scooped it up just in time. Won't get back to the line of scrimmage, but that could have been dangerous.
Like Roberts hit the hole so quickly that Kevin Glenn couldn't pivot around and get him the football. Milt Stiegel, a little bit of motion there, and Glenn had to catch it, turn around, and give it to him underneath it. Kind of bounced off his hip. And Roberts picks it up because Maurice Lloyd was right there.
Marcus Adams heads to the sidelines. He was in on the tackle. Loss of 2. 2nd and 12.
Here it comes.
And a quick hitter inside. Heavy traffic. Broken up. Maurice Lloyd was there.
Was he ever? Now this is tremendous film work all week to recognize this play from Maurice Lloyd. And he is so quick to react to this. Right there, Maurice Lloyd, number 47. Watch how quick he is to react. He steps up on Dan Goodspeed, recognizes the play, slides over, and it has no chance. I mean, that's film recognition. That's working hard in the film room all week long. You can see it react that quickly.
Again, Vincent Marshall is the return man in the absence of Weston Dressler. And here's Marshall up over the 40-yard line. And he's taken down by the rookie who's done a good job on special teams for the Bombers, Pierre-Luc Labbé out of Sherbrooke. Well, it did look a little further out for Kerry Joseph.
And he was allowed to run in. He got in without being touched, really, and that was at the end of the game last year to win the Labor Day Classic. By the way, Saskatchewan has won 3 in a row, and this is this year. Now it is early in the game, and Bishop had to fight his way for that extra and last yard.
Working with that Breeze at his back. And a double tight end formation here in the second quarter. Cates, left side. And Wes Cates close to the 50-yard line.
That is one of the reasons, though, that Eric Tillman made this deal to try and get Michael Bishop here and get him here is because of his athletic ability and his ability to run. And that's why they had success last year with Kerry Joseph. He was such an athletic quarterback that ran to the outside, ran up the middle on those quarterback draws so effectively. And because of that, they allowed the other talent then to make their plays off of the start of the running from the quarterback position.
2nd and 3, Saskatchewan. Short drop, and that pass out of the reach of Michael Palmer. Incomplete. And there is a penalty marker on the play. Bishop had thrown 5 straight completions prior to the incompletion to Palmer. Looks like the penalty is going against the Roughriders.
Holding, Saskatchewan, 67, decline. 3rd down.
Right guard Mike Abu-Meshrik, the culprit, and a former Bomber offensive lineman.
Well, when you consider the limited practice time that Michael Bishop has had, it's basically been 4 practices, which is around probably 70, maybe 80 reps total. After that first series, he's settled in and played pretty well.
A lot of eyebrows raised when that deal was made around the league.
And when he was named the starter so quickly.
Borum the boot. And Armstead flags that down at the 11. And Armstead swarmed as he crossed the 20-yard line. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN, brought to you by Sport Check. When you're in the zone, time almost stands still. Getting into the zone begins with Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. Just shy of the 4-minute mark here in the second quarter. And the Bombers will start against the wind at their 22-yard line. 3 2-and-outs in 4 possessions so far. Charles Roberts ahead. Scott Schultz in the middle of that. We talked to him about how this Rough Rider defense would have to step up after 2 shaky performances.
When we have one guy miss an assignment here and another guy miss assignment there, we look pretty average, and that's been shown the last couple of weeks. We've been gashed on the ground, and we've paid for that. And I think that the defense definitely had a huge contribution in losing those games, because we got to stop these, these 9 and outs. We need 2 and outs.
They've done that so far today, looking for another 2 and out here. 2nd and 5, a lot of steamboats. Kevin Glenn the throw, wide open. Milt Stiegel bounced down at the 47-yard line, a late flag in the Roughriders secondary.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers offensive line back intact, basically, and that offensive line gave Kevin Glenn lots of time, but is it coming back?
Looks like it is. On a pick.
You can see only a 3-man pressure. Alexander Gauthier on the outside was working on Shante Williams. Not sure if he got called for holding there.
Didn't get the number, but it was in the secondary. What Doug Barry would call a rub route was a pick downfield. And obviously the coach doesn't like the call. It negates Milt Stiegel's second catch of the game. And it makes it 2nd and 14. Glenn rolling in pursuit. Kitwana Jones. Glenn got it away. And Terrence Edwards has the catch. James Johnson there. But he'll be short of the first down.
Kitwana Jones almost had Kevin Glenn in the backfield. He just came off the edge and ran over his man to get to Kevin Glenn. He did get it out of there, and Edwards will be held short. But it is physical down there, and Kitwana Jones, he's just to the left of your screen, and he just runs over Dan Goodspeed. And that's one of the top offensive linemen in the league. And look at that hit as he puts his shoulder into him and comes to the outside.
Undersized at 6 foot 240, playing defensive end, but one of the Roughriders' best. Marshall lets this bounce and has to field it back inside the 40. Spun away and then gets forced out. Aaron Hargraves downfield with Graham Bell to make the stop. There's a penalty marker on the play. Let's check in with Jock Climie.
One of the great things about being on the sideline is occasionally players come up and talk to you. And I had a chance to talk to Michael Bishop a few moments ago. He's a little frustrated about that interception he threw in the first quarter. Felt the wind held the ball up. He's actually been told that in the second quarter with the wind, he's going to be given an opportunity to push the ball down the field, which is what he likes to do. And Greg Marshall, defensive coordinator for the Bombers, knows that Michael Bishop is not a dink and dunk underneath guy. He would like to push the ball down the field. Let's see here now with the wind if we're going to see a little more Bishop going vertical.
No doubt that arm can stretch the field in a hurry.
Yeah, no question about that. And now he's got the wind at his back, which will help him. And he's established Wes Cates in the backfield, so play action is an option for Michael Bishop if he wants to go down the field with the football.
Chris Zarka charged with an illegal block, so the Roughriders start at their own 30-yard line. There's Bishop. There he goes. He's going to air it out. Sends it downfield. Aubrey Childs pushed by Malbrough, and the flags fly.
Andre Charles put the brakes on and Malbrough ran over his back. But my question on this play, and I know Rider fans won't want to hear this, is whether or not that was a catchable ball at all. That ball looked like it was thrown well out of bounds.
And it turns out to be a 37-yard play.
It almost looked like both players sort of gave up on the football. Now Andre Childs kind of slows down, and that's why Marble runs over him. But you can see it goes down, and then that ball bounces a good 5-6 yards away from the target. Now, would he have been able to run down that football? I guess because it bounced inbounds, it was still close enough that he warranted the interference call.
Big shift in field position. And a first down at the Bomber 43. High formation, and Cates follows Zarka. And Wes Cates with a big gain on the ground to the 36-yard line.
Other than Joe Lobendon, the linebacking core for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are a little undersized for linebackers. Cam Hall is at 220. Ike Charlton just over 200. And that's why Wes Cates can do a lot of that chugging, and it'll be up to Lobendon to make those tackles and scrape to the football and help out his smaller, undersized guys.
Joe Lobendon has been active, 27 tackles in his last 4 starts, 7 for Cates, 2nd and 3, another quarterback draw, and it's a first down. And Lobendon there to stop Bishop, and was that an audible at the line? Looked like Bishop saw something and took advantage.
Yeah, he did, and now he's got a couple of things going, because he's got those linebackers now having to try and match up with Wes Cates, because they want Joe Lobendon on Wes Cates in the run game, but the Bombers don't want Lobendon on Cates when he gets out in the pass game. That's when they'd rather have Cam Hall or Ike Charlton cover Cates, because he is so versatile. Puts him in a bind.
7 for Bishop, and another first down at the 29, and Bishop on a roll. Pumped once, Todd Canada there, and now getting to the end zone. Bowman can't bring it down. Kelly Malvo in coverage, and a marker down at the goal line.
Well, you get a little bit of a glimpse at the strength of Michael Bishop's arm, and his ability to extend a play by scrambling around in the backfield. Little play action there. Canada is trying to chase him down. He bounces back away from Canada, and off his heels throws it about 55, 60 yards into the back of the end zone. It's one thing that the Saskatchewan receivers have to get used to with Michael Bishop, is that they have to stay with their routes. If they have a deep route, to stay deep.
Offensive pass interference. Saskatchewan, number 27. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
So a rub route called on Henri Childs this time, or some kind of offensive pass interference. Both teams have been charged with that call here in this second quarter, and it brings the football back to the Winnipeg 39, 1st and 20. The criticism of Marcus Crandall was lack of mobility for this Saskatchewan offense. Clearly, you're seeing a lot of mobility, and we knew he had it. Michael Bishop showing it in his first Roughrider start. Pressure, getting that, and no one close to it. Corey Grant, the intended receiver for Saskatchewan. And Jerome Haywood got a shot in on the Roughriders' new quarterback.
Gavin Walls getting a little pressure on Michael Bishop there. And he's the guy who I believe put the hit on Bishop. He's right at the top of your line, Gavin Walls. And he comes off the edge, goes outside and around Wes Cates. He gets the hit on Bishop.
Indeed, Gavin Walls, who had a huge game last week, 7 tackles, a quarterback sack, and a couple of knockdowns. Underneath it goes. Henri Childs sidesteps one, and then steps out at the 27-yard line, and that will set up 3rd down.
It's interesting how they do this. They have Henri Childs, who's a converted running back at slot back due to injury, and he's out to the left of your screen. He'll come. He's over here, and he comes across, and then they release Wes Cates out of the backfield as well. And Wes Cates, now you basically get 2 running backs out of the backfield. They give it to Henri Childs there. They could have easily gone to Wes Cates as well. It's an option to look for as this game goes on, because there's a couple open receivers there. There are converted running backs.
Been determined to get Childs more involved in the offense with so many injuries. And now Luka Kanji from 34 yards out, and he puts it through as the Roughriders up their lead to 10. And a reminder that entries close September 7th for you to be involved in Wendy's Kick for $1 million. Those great prizes. Be one of 2 kickers from Eastern or Western Canada. Now over 2 million entries to get a crack at those great prizes. I'd also like to send a shout out to all the folks watching at Canadian Stadium in Winnipeg. And proceeds from that going to the Never Alone Foundation. Kevin Glenn trying to ignite this offense, and a completion to Robbie Bryant as we check back in with the quarterback, Matt Dunnigan.
Thanks, guys. Couple different dynamics here on both sides of the ball for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Offensive line coach Bob Wiley. He's used to having this play sent in. Now that Kevin Glenn's calling his own plays, what happens? He can't focus on the focal point of the play. He's got to figure out the play first and then work backwards in order to communicate to his offensive lineman. On the other hand, Greg Marshall defensively says that Michael Bishop is simply causing havoc for his defensive backs because they're trying to help out with his legs, and yet when they peek in the backfield to help try to contain Bishop, they're losing sight of the receivers. So a lot going on here with the Bombers coaching staff.
Thank you, Matt. 2nd and 4. Kevin Glenn 9 of 11 in his first half. Charles Roberts. And Roberts dropped the ball. Was he down? Saskatchewan up with it, but they're ruling down. Omar Morgan shut it down for Saskatchewan, and Roberts hit the deck short of the first down.
First of all, the Saskatchewan defense has done a much better job so far in this game against the run and against Charles Roberts. Let's take a look and see if Charles Roberts was down. Looked like he touched there, and then the ball came out. So he is down by contact. That contact by Omar Morgan. Won't be a fumble, and the Bombers will be able to punt. But that run defense looks a lot better in this game than they have over the last two for Saskatchewan.
4th, 2 and out. Cerna boots it away. And this is James Johnson on the return. And he's upended after his first punt return as Greg Bierman's first man downfield.
You heard Matt Dunnigan talk about Bishop running around, and with Wes Cates established and running the ball well early on, that puts a bind in the secondary again, because when you look at his numbers, Wes Cates this season be well over 1,000 yards, and when you look at his catches, he's not that far off of doing what Avon Coburn is on pace for in Montreal and getting 1,000 and 1,000 in both. And Wes Cates could possibly do that if he gets a couple more catches in the game. The bottom line is, though, and again, to reiterate what Matt said, it puts a bind in your secondary when the running game's going and you have a running quarterback. You got your eyes on the running game, you got the eyes on the quarterback, and you can easily lose a receiver when you're doing it. So we'll watch and see if the Bombers can react to this, try and get their linebackers to take care of the run.
Rain starting to fall here, and that might make that pigskin a little slick. Wes Cates has touched the ball 9 times for 57 yards. Rushing and receiving so far, and there's his 10th touch up to the 40, and a couple for the number 2 rusher in the CFL behind Montreal's Avon Coburn.
Number 44, Tom Canada, 98, Gavin Walls. 2nd down, a little less than 8 to go for the Riders.
That play made by Doug Brown. Again, if your defensive line for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers can step up and control Cates, you can't stop him, but you can control him. Big tackle there by Brown. Helps out your secondary.
Bombers second last against the run on the season. 2nd and 8, flag down, and Bishop with a receiver down. Corey Grant taken down, and that pass ends up about 25 yards past the intended target.
Corey Grant went down early. It looked like he got tangled up with Kelly Malvo.
Excuse me, Glenn, there is a penalty, and it looks like it is
Outside,
against Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, number 44, 5-yard penalty, repeat 2nd down.
Yeah, I did see Canada kind of wiggle towards the line of scrimmage. Almost bounced in there. Number 44 at the bottom of your screen. Just a little movement into the neutral zone, and up at the top of your screen, here you go, is Corey Grant. Little bit of bump there from Kelly Malvo, and Corey Grant goes down. That ball way overthrown.
So it sets up 2nd and 3. 2 backs, and again, Cates behind Sarka off the left side, and was close before he was drilled back, and we'll have to wait for the spot from Ken Lazarick's crew as Tom Canada and Cam Hall unpile.
And quarterbacks love to have the wind at their back, no question, but it can also raise a little havoc. That ball really sailed to Corey Grant. Now he went down, but that ball from Bishop traveled about 60, 70 yards. And I asked the receivers, I asked Wes Stressler, I said, when Bishop arrives in practice, and how did you like the way he throws the ball? And he goes, wow, he throws some fastballs. And he said, the one thing you have to understand is that with Michael Bishop and all the throws that he can make, you have to stay with your route. You just keep on running and keep going deep. And he'll get you the ball. You can never outrun Michael Bishop's arm.
Certainly with the wind at his back, even more so. So 3rd and inches, and again, they go. Burst out of the huddle and surge forward. Didn't need much, and again, Winnipeg tough on that short yardage situation. Gavin Walls and Chris Zarka go grill to grill. And another fresh set of downs. We mentioned Wes Cates, who is the most dangerous Rough Rider weapon, getting more attention, and he's had to make an adjustment.
I've got to figure out a way not to get stopped. I can't. I've got to be there for my teammates, and I can't disappear in a football game, no matter what they're doing, to try to take me out of it. So that's something I've been dealing with personally, and I've been definitely watching film and trying to figure out ways that I can still have positive plays and rack up yards. So you'll definitely see an improvement from me.
Bishop under pressure, escaping, taking off, and tripped up. Ball came loose, but it's ruled down. Anthony Malbrough with the tackle on Michael Bishop as he crossed midfield, as they give the 3-minute warning to the benches here at Mosaic Stadium. .254 remaining, first half. Rona at the half comes your way at halftime, as Schultz, Climbey, Dunnigan, and Randorf will give you their impressions of the first half. We had Matt Dunnigan patrolling the Winnipeg sidelines, Jock Climbey at the Saskatchewan bench, and lots to talk about in this opening half.
I flew in with Chris Schultz. That was interesting.
2nd and short, and Michael Bishop on his horse again has the first down, brought down by Ike Charlton. Michael Bishop had just 42 yards rushing coming into this game, and he's now over 30 in this opening half.
Chris Schultz doesn't travel much. I flew in with them. They're at the panels here, and they'll be at halftime and under the tent. And Schultz checked in his toiletry bag, which didn't go over well with Jock Climbey. He said, that's a carry-on. He got in the pregame, he got his watermelon helmet on, so he's ready. And then he tried to check. He the cab pulled up, and he tried to check his bag with the cab. He doesn't travel much.
He doesn't get out much.
No.
1st and 10. Michael Bishop. This one almost picked off. And there was a little miscommunication.
Yeah, that's what Matt Dunnigan talked about before the game in the pregame show, that it would be a challenge for Bishop to be on the same page with his receivers throughout the entire game. Hasn't been all that bad in this first half, but this is an example of it where Bishop throws the ball just before, and you could see Corey Grant had already made his break and decision to turn around and go down the field, and that ball almost intercepted by Callie Malvo.
Just out of the reach of Malvo, who was the safety in the Winnipeg defense in their last game, as you mentioned, because of ratio concerns and the return of Terrence Edwards. Ian Logan at safety and Malvo back at defensive half. 2nd and 10. And time to load it up. Looking downfield for Cates, just out of his reach, as they isolated Cates on the Will linebacker, Cam Hall.
Wes Cates comes out, and this is what we're talking about with the strength of Michael Bishop's arm, is that Cates realizes that once he makes his decision to go down the field, and here he goes, now he can sprint. You see how he hesitated right there? He hesitates for 2 seconds and then is a little short on the ball, and that is the difference between a Michael Bishop at quarterback and a lot of the other guys who can't make that throw that far down the field.
I know Matt Dunnigan told us a story of Darius Bowman learned that early in practice this week. Maybe Cates, not as frequent a deep passing threat, just learned that lesson now.
Exactly. If he continues to sprint, he has a touchdown catch, and Saskatchewan wants to get a timeout here.
Rough Riders want a timeout as they line up this 55-yard field goal with the wind at the back of Luka Kanji, who has a 47-yard longest this season. And now Ken Miller's changed his mind. And that's interesting. He mentioned that he tried a field goal in Edmonton that was too long, and he regretted the decision and has changed his mind here, and will try and pin Winnipeg with 2:06 left.
Long field goal is more of a challenge now with the return game, and possibility of getting it out of your end zone and running it for Winnipeg because of the offensive line that would be covering a field goal. There's more big guys in there. It's a little easier for return man against a field goal team than it is against a punt cover team.
And with time, pin the Bombers and get it back in better field position. That's an option if Borum can get it into the corner. And Jamie Borum didn't get it deep, but that's a good kick nonetheless inside the 20. And they're going to mark it at around the 7-yard line. So Borum gets the job done. Well, a new era in sports has arrived with the launch of TSN2. More games, more sports, more choice. For example, right now on TSN2, you can catch exclusive coverage of U.S. Open tennis live from Flushing Meadows, New York. TSN2, contact your television service provider to subscribe or visit tsn2.ca for more information.
Everybody gets involved. See Gaynor? See Gaynor, I want to say he's saying it went right out right here.
Right there.
He's trying to help the officials. Everybody getting involved on the Labor Day weekend.
So they don't go for the longest field goal of Luka Kanji's career. Instead, they get Winnipeg back inside the 10. Kevin Glenn goes to work, and Robbie Bryant has a catch up to the 16 for a little more breathing room. And a gain of close to 9.
A conversation with Eddie Davis about Robbie Bryant, and he has a lot of respect for the young rookie and Robbie Bryant. He said, I asked him, I said, you know, what is it about Robbie Bryant? And there's, you can see 29 for Saskatchewan covering. He's in a deeper zone there. He'll come up and rally with the tackle. He said, you got to take away the deep ball on him. That's what Eddie Davis told me, because he's got that great per catch average.
Short yardage, and the Bombers get a fresh set of downs. Well, Robbie Bryant's had an 85-yarder. In fact, he has the longest average reception in the CFL this year at 21.6 yards a catch.
And he'll be on the short side of the field for the most part for Winnipeg, and that's where Eddie Davis lines up for Saskatchewan. It's a little surprising that Eddie Davis, the veteran of 14 years, does not have an interception yet, but in a game like this, Labor Day weekend, that's when your veterans seem to make that play. I wouldn't be surprised to see Eddie Davis get one today.
Just 5 first downs for Winnipeg here in the first half. Glenn with some pressure, and he'll just dump it off and let Charles Roberts go to work. And Roberts up across the 20-yard line. Kitwana Jones in pursuit. 80 seconds left in this first half.
His defense has really responded, though. The last couple of games against the run, they have not, and against running backs, they have not done the same thing that they did for that 6-game winning streak. In fact, they were giving up over 200 yards per game against the run. And when you look at the first 6 games and their 6 wins, 79.5. The last 2 over 200. They're playing better this afternoon.
2nd and 7 passing situation here, and that pass over the head of Robbie Bryant, and incomplete. So the Roughriders are going to get the ball back in the final minute of this first half, as Alexis Cerna has to come on for his 6th punt of the half.
I want to show you Anton McKenzie to the right of your screen. He's going to eliminate. Stop it there, guys, if you can. You see right here in the middle of your screen. That's the crosser that Kevin Glenn initially wanted to Charles Roberts, coming right across, and then he catches that and gets the corner. Anton McKenzie took that away.
A couple of receivers in the same vicinity for Winnipeg. Here's James Johnson on the return and back into Winnipeg territory at the 45. So
yeah, it's a
Ken
good
Miller's
strategy.
Decision turned out to be a good one.
I agree. Yeah, that's you know, in the Canadian Football League, it's you can get that possession so quickly with a quick 2 and out with a 20-second huddle. And I do like the decision to punt it rather than try the long field goal. They get decent field position, and now as they get another chance at it here, they get a chance at a major, but they also can put the field goal team right back out here.
Just 3 points with the wind for Saskatchewan in this second quarter. And here goes Bishop taking off and skipping out close to the 40-yard line and close to 5.
I know the one thing that the Saskatchewan fans will start to really enjoy Michael Bishop's play if he continues to run as much as he's run in this first half, and the way he's run aggressively. He just, for some reason, to me, Michael Bishop looks more comfortable, more relaxed. I know he's only been here a week, but he's going to become a fan favorite in a hurry if he keeps running as well as he's running in this one.
Stopped the clock as he stepped out. No timeout for Saskatchewan. Second and short. Corey Grant! Did he make the catch? No. And took a heavy hit as well.
He would have, except for the fact that Kelly Malvo said, no. And that's, Kelly Malvo steps up here because it looked like Corey Grant was going to have a chance. There's Malvo right there. He's going to step up and make the hit. Corey Grant grabs it with the one hand. If he has another split second here, he might be able to corral it in, and bam, there's the hit coming from Malvo.
So with 40 seconds left, field goal unit on. And it will be from 47 yards out with Rob Bagg holding for Luka Kanji. And that one tucks in. And Luka Kanji with a 47-yarder matches his season high and ups the Roughrider lead to 13 points.
How about Luka Kanji's kicking percentage? Coming into this game, just shy of 90%. Not been an issue for Ken Miller, just allowing him some more opportunities maybe. This football team, in fact, both teams only been in the red zone on average just over 2 times a game coming in. 19 visits for both these teams into the red zone. So you'd like to see Kanji get a few more opportunities, but Kanji's nailed it when he's had those opportunities.
It's been another slow start for the Blue Bombers. 69 first half points all season long. Kevin Glenn rolls and gets it away, and Milt Stiegel has another catch. And a first down up at the 47-yard line.
Well, it gives Kevin Glenn a chance with 29 seconds to possibly get into field goal range, but he needs to get a lot closer because he's into the wind than Luka Kanji was on his attempt.
He needs about 30 yards of real estate with 24 seconds left. And that pass complete, and Armstrong's going to stretch out to stop the clock with Eddie Davis holding on. Milt Stiegel, by the way, now 85 yards away from becoming the all-time receiving yardage leader and surpassing the great Alan Pitts.
Milt Stiegel's had some great memories on Labor Days, and he's pretty vocal, giving the newspaper writers in Winnipeg some quotes.
Sounded like Troy Westwood this week. 2nd and 4. Glenn airing it out. Jump ball. R.J. Franklin couldn't bring it down. James Johnson actually had a better shot at the football.
Yeah, R.J. Franklin became the defensive back there and just avoided the interception because he hit James Johnson, timed it up well enough that Johnson couldn't come down with the football, but Johnson had the body position. He was inside, he had a chance at it, and there's defensive back R.J. Franklin.
And the Bombers, 12 seconds left. They haven't started the clock. It's 3rd and 4. And Winnipeg going for it here. And that pass is incomplete. 6 seconds left.
No, incomplete is better for Saskatchewan than, I was looking to wonder whether or not Kevin Glenn would let this clock run all the way down before snapping the ball, and he didn't, because now, with the wind at his back, it would be about a 60-yard field goal attempt for Luka Kanji.
Do you have time? 5 seconds to run a play to get it closer? I'm not sure if you got a sideline play. 4 seconds or not?
You could try one quick throw.
And of course, Michael Bishop has the option of loading it up and going for everything. That appears to be option number 1.
They've loaded up the right side.
Yep, nothing quick about this play. A little sidearm to Corey Grant, and the clock will run out. And that will do it for the opening half of football in the 2008 Labor Day Weekend Classic at Mosaic.
Welcome back. At the Half is brought to you by Rona, the Canadian how-to people. And we are back at Mosaic Stadium in Regina, where the weather is rainy and a little cool. Wouldn't you say, Jock?
This sideline reporting, you got to be tough to do that.
I was on the sidelines.
You were in the tent.
A little bit under the tent, but it's not so bad. I just spoke to somebody from the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and they did say that we are expecting more wet stuff as the game goes on. It is 16-3 for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The big story, Matt, coming in undoubtedly was Michael Bishop and how he would fare after being parachuted in from the Toronto Argonauts. His second pass is picked off, an interception that does not cost him any points. How has he worked out since then in your eyes?
Outstanding. You know, and in fairness to Michael Bishop, that wind caught that one and knocked it down into the DB's hands. So I'm not going to count that against him. But I will say this. On the sidelines over on the Winnipeg side, I can tell you that Greg Marshall is really concerned with his defensive backfield, peeking in the back, defensive backfield, looking in the backfield, trying to worry about the legs of Michael Bishop. And here you see Gavin Walls has got contained. But what happens? You've got Malbrough losing sight of the fact that his receiver's running a pattern. And Bishop's got an easy completion leading to this. This is classic Labor Day play calling here, and a great way to utilize Michael Bishop's skills. Little quarterback draw, the big man gets under the pads of Doug Brown, and power and finesses him in the end zone. Very nice job by Michael Bishop in the first half here of doing what he does best, is opening up the defense of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with his legs, Schultz.
You know, Matty, you can't predict what the young man's going to do as a quarterback, and it's turning out to be a great asset for him. I think the two defensive ends, Tom Canada and Gavin Walls, they have to react correctly when they press the edges of that defense. Now, when you watch right here, he's going to fake the play-action pass. And right now, Tom Canada has to attack that outside shoulder faster than Michael Bishop can get rid of the football, because there he completes it right to another receiver. Here's another example. This time, you're going to see Gavin Walls get off his block, and he's got to instantaneously get to Michael Bishop before Michael Bishop is comfortable with the ball. He's done a great job of using those legs, done a great job of attacking those two defensive ends. They have to play better.
Yeah, what you're really talking about is the chess match that goes on between offense and defense. It's one of the things I enjoy most about the game of football. And there's a chess match going on in terms of how Saskatchewan can defend Kevin Glenn. And you could see in the first quarter, it was pretty clear that they wanted to go with a lot of blitz and try to get him to throw the ball quickly, and he did a great job of that. Kevin Glenn rolled out and rolled away from the blitz and found Stiegel, who actually looks a lot better this football game, is really contributing. So that's key. And again, they actually got Saskatchewan out of the blitz because of this play. I have not seen Saskatchewan bring the all-out blitz until after they converted here on 2nd and 5, hit Bryant, who adjusted his pattern to a 5-yard out. And this is key. Now, on the other side of the ball, Michael Bishop has done a great job, I think, of just managing the game. And this was a perfect example where he also went underneath on 2nd and 20, got himself 12 yards, and they picked up the field goal after that. It's about managing. We haven't seen a lot of big plays. Both offenses are just trying to manage the game.
Well, very quickly, Winnipeg offensively has a big quarter coming up with the win in the third. What simple adjustment do they have to make?
Well, I think they have to start going for the big play. There's too much underneath stuff. They need to stretch this defense.
Saskatchewan has 4 offensive touchdowns in their last 12 quarters, and this is the one they have today by none other than Michael Bishop, 16-3 at the half. Welcome back. Well, we still have a half to go here in this Labor Day Classic, and tomorrow the Labor Day doubleheader. Edmonton at Calgary, followed by Toronto at Hamilton. Both games on TSN, available in beautiful TSN high definition. And Schulte, you know, that Calgary-Edmonton game, both of them are going to be great, but that Calgary-Edmonton game should be a doozy, because you have to go back to the year 2000 when the last time the Eskimos and the Stamps both had winning records in this classic Labor Day matchup, and we're expecting a good one at McMahon.
You know, Dave, I think there are 3 outstanding quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League right now. In Montreal, you have Anthony Calvillo, but tomorrow we're going to see 2 of them, Henry Burris and Ricky Ray. And they always say that they don't compete against one another, but they are aware of each other's abilities. And I think which quarterback will stay calm, cool, and collected in that football game will end up being the winner. Big advantage for Calgary being at home. These 2 teams usually split and the home team winning. A little bit more pressure on Calgary because they got to win that one at home, Jocko.
Well, and you talk about the quarterbacking, but of course Ricky Ray now has got a running game. And it's going to be very interesting to see if Calgary is able to react to that, as we're seeing Saskatchewan do in this ball game, playing much better against the run. Same thing. I think you're going to see a real difference in the type of defense that Calgary is going to put together, because they know that Edmonton's now got a running game in A.J. Harris.
Toronto goes into Hamilton. They are 0-2 against the Ticats this year. They released Delano Steinauer. There's all kinds of pressure on the Argos. The Ticats will have Jesse Lumsden and Casey Printers in that game, Matt.
Yes, and I mean, that's a big boost for the Hamilton Ticats, looking to make it a clean sweep on the Toronto Argonauts. But I can say this, Casey Printers has got to be willing to commit to playing a football game. Just go out there and doing what he does best, and that's reacting and not trying to be the perfect quarterback. We've seen Richie Williams go out there and do that in his absence. I'd like to see Casey Printers do that, and if he does, I believe the Hamilton Ticats have an opportunity, Dave, at having a clean sweep against the Argonauts.
Wow, that would really be something. Both of their wins have come at the expense of the Argonauts, and neither have been close.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this ball game precisely because of that. Hamilton's looked positively mediocre all season, except against Toronto, when they look spectacular. We're going to see the same thing. Are we going to see the trend continue with Printers now at the helm?
I know the defensive line coach, newly acquired defensive line coach Mike Walker for the Toronto Argonauts, is simply making a difference already, and they haven't even played a game, Schulte, because they are going to attack the line of scrimmage, and that is Mike Walker's influence. So I look for them to have a concentrated effort at stopping Hamilton's run.
I'll tell you about Mike Walker. He's one of the best defensive linemen, if not the best, that I played against. He's going to make an impact.
I knew you probably had some good battles against him. Mike Walker added to the Argonauts coaching staff. Here are the halftime numbers brought to you by Tim Hortons, always fresh. Jock.
Well, obviously, it hasn't been much of an offensive output for either football team. The rain and the wind are continuing to play a factor in this ball game. Michael Bishop, though, has the advantage in that aspect of the game.
And Michael Bishop has a 13-point lead with 1 half to go. The spirits are not dampened here at Mosaic. The players are back out on the field. We'll be right back.
TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL and the Labor Day weekend and proud home of the Grey Cup. 16-3 as we head to the third quarter. But first, Ray Morrison with Saskatchewan head coach Ken Miller.
Well, assess Michael Bishop's performance for me.
Well, we're rallying around him a little bit, and he's made some plays just on pure athleticism, and so he's doing reasonably well.
What about your defense now? Kevin Glenn has showed flashes of brilliance, but for the most part, you've held them off the board as far as their touchdown prowess is concerned.
Well, I'm really pleased with how our defense is playing. They're playing with great energy, flying around to the ball, and doing pretty well right now.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Let's check in with Glenn Suter and your halftime adjustments.
Well, I sort of agree with Jock Climby, who said that they'd like to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers push the ball deep. I know with this wind and the weather conditions, that may be difficult, but intermediate routes for Kevin Glenn. Right now, the Riders are taking away the run, and Charles Roberts doing a good job on their run defense. So I think Kevin Glenn now has to start to progress and try to use the talent in his receiving core. And for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, not necessarily a complete adjustment because they did use Wes Cates in the first half. They've got to keep using him in the second and stay with them so that Bishop's running in combination with Wes Cates running. Then you have some problems on defense for the Bombers.
Wes Cates, 9 carries, 38 yards, a couple of catches for 25, so 63 yards from scrimmage for Wes Cates in the opening half. A 13-point Saskatchewan lead. And all in all, I'm not sure how much more you could expect from Michael Bishop under the circumstances.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good half for Michael Bishop after the first interception, but he settled in there and he looks comfortable. He looks relaxed. He's running around with the football and using his athletic ability. And, you know, in combination with Wes Cates, that could be difficult to defend against.
So a critical third quarter for the Bombers, who have to get back in it. They will get the ball first and also have the win in this third quarter of football.
Yeah, big quarter for them with the win to try and get the lead and try and get a cushion, because the fourth quarter is the longer quarter. And Saskatchewan will have the win for that one.
Bombers looking for their first road win of the year. The Roughriders trying to put the brakes on a 2-game losing streak. And we'll do it all over again next Sunday in the Banjo Bowl. But away we go, second half. And it is Armstead high stepping across the 35-yard line. 19 on the return. Kevin Glenn will try and get things going after 8 possessions in the first half that resulted in 6 punts, a turnover and downs, and 1 field goal.
Avoided the interception. Michael Bishop had that one pick in his very first series. 13 of 18, pretty good for Kevin Glenn. But again, a lot of those dump passes and the underneath stuff. And I really think for Kevin Glenn now to take this offense to the next level, he's going to have to start to hit those intermediate routes.
Charles Roberts just 17 yards rushing first half. And so he's 46 yards away. Cut into that, but the run game has been difficult to establish here today. Scott Schultz slams the door, the Moose Jaw Saskatchewan native.
Well, the run game and stopping the run really begins with Maurice Lloyd and Anton McKenzie. Scott Schultz up front gets the tackle on that one. Of course, the D-line obviously very important there, but the scrapers, the guys who's got to go from side to side, is Anton McKenzie and Maurice Lloyd, who have a real good relationship when it comes to preparing for football games.
What a job they've done on Roberts. 10 touches, 23 yards. 2nd and 9, Glenn guns and has the completion, and Derek Armstrong with the catch. The former Saskatchewan Roughrider has a first down up at the 50.
Derek Armstrong sits down. This is puts Anton McKenzie in a bit of a bind because he's got Charles Roberts, number 42. He wants to try and take him and eliminate that one, but then he's got to get outside and push to Armstrong. He can't get there in time, and Armstrong picks up the first down.
That's an important second down conversion here early third quarter, and now Kevin Glenn rolling, throwing downfield, and Robbie Bryant had to go through his fingertips, and that could have been dangerous with Rough Rider defenders behind him, but Bryant drops what would have been another Winnipeg first down.
Well, first of all, the play action works real well for Kevin Glenn because it really pulls most of the D-line, including Scott Schultz, who followed Charles Roberts all the way. That's what got Kevin Glenn outside. Watch the fake there, and the entire defense flow to that side. Look at all the room that Kevin Glenn has. A nice throw. The only problem with it is that Robbie Bryant drops it.
And we saw a Bryant drop, a Stiegel drop against Hamilton. Otherwise, their numbers would have been even more impressive in their last win against the Tiger Cats. 2nd and 10. Couple of pumps, and now pass that's picked off, intercepted by James Patrick. And Patrick's all the way back inside the Winnipeg 40-yard line. James Patrick has his first CFL interception. They're celebrating early in the second half in Saskatchewan. Rough Rider ball when we come back. Kevin Glenn conferring with Doug Barry after Glenn throws his league-leading 11th interception of the year.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lead the league as a team in that category as well. For the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they had the right play called back-to-back. Just didn't execute. One, Robbie Bryant drops it, and the other, Kevin Glenn, overthrows his target.
Now the Rough Riders take over at the Bomber 40. Wes Keats. Doug Brown holds on and limits Keats to 3 yards.
Let me show you what I mean, because let me show you Milt Stiegel. He recognizes in this defense that Sean Lucas is going to blitz, so he tells everybody right here, look at Lucas is coming on the blitz, which he does go. So the Bombers have the right play called. They're going to get the over and under. They've got Stiegel right here on the under, and they're going to get over the top. They're going to get Armstrong. Everything executed well, the right play called, the open receiver, and they don't execute the play. They overthrow it.
2nd and 7, Rough Riders. Here comes pressure. Cam Hall got his hand on the arm of Michael Bishop, impeding that throw. Hall blitzing off the edge from his will linebacker spot.
Now let's see what they got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up on the line of scrimmage, and now they're going to that what Chris Schultz trying to disguise a little bit who's coming and who's not. They load up the line of scrimmage, and Cam Hall is unblocked out from the outside.
Ball on the 37, and Conji's going to try a 44-yarder into the wind. So we'll get a good barometer on how stiff this breeze really is.
Onside guy.
And some movement that might force Saskatchewan right out of a field goal decision. And it does.
You know, and I'm wondering if they were just not trying to set up to see how Winnipeg was going to play against that onside man.
Saskatchewan, number 93, 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
What I mean by that is James Johnson on the field goal team came behind the kicker, Luka Kanji, and he was covered by Kelly Malvo, because if they can kick that in the corner, then their onside man can recover the kick. I'm not sure if they're even lining up for a field goal at all in that formation, but not necessarily going to kick it.
Now they've got 2 men onside, with Borum set to punt, angling that downfield. Armstead's got it at his 12, 20, 25, and slowed up enough. And that's a big stop again by James Patrick, because Armstrong had some things opening up along the sidelines. Well, the CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Nissan's Make the Call. Play on cfl.nissan.ca for your chance to win a trip to the Grey Cup game.
I'm going to show you that quickly again. See James Johnson coming out here? He's onside, and this field goal formation, if Luka Kanji just kicks it over here short, then that man, James Johnson, he can recover it. When he saw that he was covered by Kelly Malvo, I think they decided, forget it, it's not going to work, let's punt the football.
2-back offense to start for the Bombers. Kevin Glenn with some time and throws a strike. R.J. Franklin has a catch up at the 45-yard line.
There is that intermediate route I was talking about. In that last series with the interception, they tried to get it to Derek Armstrong, and it was just an overthrown play. This time, R.J. Franklin right into the middle, and again, intermediate route, 10 to 15 to 20 yards. Those are the ones now that will force the linebackers to back up and help in that pass coverage, and may give them a little more room to run the ball.
16-yard pickup on R.J. Franklin's first catch of the afternoon. 1st and 10. Fake to Roberts. And Flynn directing traffic, but stripped to the ball. Lloyd knocked it loose. Kitwana Jones has got it. And he's stripped up by Charles Roberts. But another turnover on consecutive Winnipeg's possessions. And Saskatchewan in position to put this away.
Maurice Lloyd is the guy who's going to make the play. You're going to see a lot of the Saskatchewan Roughriders go with flow here as they go with the play action, except for Maurice Lloyd and Anton McKenzie. Maurice Lloyd and Anton McKenzie together get back there. There is the fumble forced by Maurice Lloyd right there as he punches it out. And then Kitwana Jones picks it up on the one hopper there, scoops it up, and picks up some yards after the fact.
Ball on the 13, the 5th time in the game Saskatchewan started on Winnipeg's side of half. Quarterback option, and Bishop is dropped. Great defensive play by Tom Canada. The guys on the panel wanted those ends to be a little more aggressive. Canada was.
Well, they can, because they got the help from Cam Hall. Cam Hall flies to the pitchman, and it takes the option away. He's got that guy right back there, Wes Cates. If Cam Hall gets there quickly, it allows Tom Canada to get to the quarterback quickly. You see Cam Hall takes the pitch, Tom Canada takes the quarterback, and now you can defend that play.
2nd and 9. Michael Bishop looking end zone, and Darius Bowman went one way, the ball went the other, and another example of that miscommunication with a new quarterback.
And that's going to take time. It's going to take a lot more time than 70 reps, which is really all that Michael Bishop had with his new teammates here in Saskatchewan. And that time Bowman just broke his off and ran it out. And Michael Bishop thought he was going to continue to the back of the end zone.
So they'll have to settle for 3. As the Bomber defense is stout when they had to be. Kanji for 19 out. And it's good. And now the Roughriders have 19. 19-3 lead. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. When you're in the zone, time almost stands still. Getting into the zone begins with Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. So 3 consecutive series for Winnipeg have resulted in turnovers. A turnover on downs to end the first half. An interception and a fumble here to start the second half. And the Bombers now in a 16-point deficit. Here's Fred Reed on the return. And a good return by Reed up to the 43-yard line.
Well, this third quarter for Kevin Glenn is running out, and this is the important quarter for him when you consider the wind and the weather conditions here at Mosaic Stadium. Last 3 possessions, as you mentioned, Chris, turnover on downs, interception, fumble. And while they've weathered that storm a little bit because they haven't given up a whole bunch of points off those turnovers, they still have to make hay in this third quarter.
Just 3 points off turnovers. The wind doesn't appear to be as much of a factor here in the second half as it was in the first.
It fools you, though. It really does here because, you know, the flags on the top of the goalpost, the flags around the stadium will all of a sudden look like the wind isn't really that big a factor. And then all of a sudden that little gust. You see that gust that comes up, and that usually happens right as the quarterback's ready to release the football.
Got an injury to Jamie Borum on that kickoff. And Borum was part of the in on the tackle of Fred Reed.
Jamie Borum was a safety in college, Manitoba, and he comes a little bit from the school of Noel Prefontaine, and that kickers get involved in the tackling and cover teams and don't just kind of stay out of the way, and it looked like it cost him there a little bit.
Dare I say Manitoba with a win over Regina yesterday with the backup quarterback of the Regina Rams in our booth, but that Manitoba team's tough again this year. Well, our Purolator sack tally is brought to you by Purolator, where business is going. There are the numbers on the year, and just 1 sack, and it came early from Shante Williams on the first defensive series for the Roughriders.
But these 2 teams have a chance to make some ground on Montreal and BC, because they were 25 and 24 going into Friday's game. No sacks in that one, so chance for Saskatchewan and Winnipeg to climb up the ladder a little bit in that race.
Roughriders 14 sacks fewer than at this point last year, but hard to critique anything we've seen from them defensively this afternoon.
It's team defense. That's what they play. That's what they preach. Their head coach, Richie Hall, has got them all playing together and rallying to the football.
So the Bombers have to get it going. They start from their 42, and they give it to number 1. And Charles Roberts with a better run up to the 47 and has 5.
You know, Maurice Lloyd also turned that play in again. He's the one who caused the fumble from Kevin Glenn. Those are the 2 guys that have really established themselves in that defense, and they're good buddies. In fact, when Richie Hall put the game plan in at the beginning of training camp, those 2 guys after meetings would set up the chairs and look at the defense, and then they go over their assignments on every single defense and setting up the chairs as if it was an offense and how they would handle it.
Kevin Glenn guns, and that ball incomplete. Intended for R.J. Franklin, and Omar Morgan, the veteran, in his 9th year with the breakup.
You know what he did well on this one is Omar Morgan did not drag that left hand across the back of Armstrong, at least not enough to be called on a pass interference call. You see, he touches him a little bit as he comes over, but he avoids it enough so that he can get the knockdown and touch the ball before he makes contact with that left hand. That's where some guys get called on the pass interference, and the veteran avoids it.
Vincent Marshall is back. Weston Dressler has not returned to this game. Marshall on the run, and a good return up across the 42-yard line. So the Bombers still can't answer this Saskatchewan lead. Well, it wasn't bad enough for Blue Bomber fans that Saskatchewan won the Grey Cup last year over their Winnipeg team, but Now when they make the trip to Regina, they have to see that sign on the way in at the Manitoba-Saskatchewan border. Sam Cates had to take some medicine here after the victory. Pat Fiacco, the mayor of Regina, celebrating. And so far, Saskatchewan feeling a lot better about this Labor Day Classic so far.
Not only did the fans driving into Regina have to look at that sign as they went by, but so did the entire team, because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers took the bus for 5 hours to get here, so all the fans had to see that sign. Grey Cup champions. Of course, the Bombers just fell short, did not have their starting quarterback in the championship game in Kevin Glenn.
This defense trying to keep it close. 2nd and 6. Michael Bishop, and that one skips in front of Corey Grant. We'll check in on the Roughriders sidelines with Jock Climby.
Well, Chris, you mentioned that Dresser's not back in the ball game. In fact, they had hoped that the fog would clear after he took that big hit in the first quarter. He will not return. Michael Palmer comes in to play his position, what they call the Ranger position, which is a short side slot back position. Also, quick note that Rob Bagg out of Queen's University, Chris, is starting his first ever CFL game at what they call the Z position, which is the wide side wideout.
Well, you know, he'll be dangerous then, Jock. 3 2-and-outs though for the Roughriders to start the second half.
Watch out for SFU this year. We got a win under our belt.
Yes. Well, we got that taken care of on Friday night. So it's Queen's Day.
Okay.
Armstead runs out of real estate and steps out at the 31-yard line. TSN, the home of NASCAR. Stay tuned to TSN for live coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Pepsi 500, live from the Fontana Auto Club Speedway. Coverage begins immediately following this game, and it's available in TSN high definition. These fans hoping that the Roughriders can end a 2-game losing streak. Bombers were looking for their first 2-game win streak of the year, but they're going to have to come from 16 points down to win today. Kevin Glenn slipping up was Stiegel, but he recovered, or R.J. Franklin, and he's got a catch and a first down at the 43.
Well, you got to give the Bombers credit for one thing. They certainly are trying to hit those intermediate routes. R.J. Franklin fights his way back up off the turf. Omar Morgan stays outside, shoulder on him. A little stumble there, but the ball thrown low and into the stomach of R.J. Franklin, so comes up with the catch. But they're attacking that intermediate zone.
Ball for Franklin, the University of Windsor product. First down. Play action fake to Roberts. Kevin Glenn in trouble, and Scott Schultz has his 2nd sack of the year.
Disciplined pass rush from the interior, Scott Schultz. Scott Schultz going on Kyle Koch right in the middle of that defense. He's right here, and Schultz is disciplined. Steps up the field, holds the zone, push, and then Kevin Glenn steps right up into where he is taking care of that gap, and he just controls the middle of the defense, and he puts it on a platter for him.
They always colorful. Scott Schultz. 2nd and 13. On a roll, and that pass delivered high and incomplete.
That was a similar play where Kevin Glenn comes to the outside, and Maurice Lloyd, the linebacker, is scraping. Remember, Lloyd caused a fumble with Kevin Glenn, and it looked like he might have rushed this throw a little bit. He thinks he's got the outside, and all of a sudden you're going to see 47 flash in front of your screen. There he is right there, and then Kevin Glenn takes the ball, and he rushes it a little bit, made it slip on him a little bit, and goes high and outside.
Terrence Edwards, the intended receiver. Kick downfield, and Vincent Marshall's got it. Ian Logan, one of the first men downfield on the Bomber cover team. 4 minutes, 33 seconds remaining here in the third quarter. Jamie Parisi and Michael Bishop on the sidelines. Bishop conferring with Ken Miller. And a good point here, a 16-point lead for a quarterback who was 11-1 last year as a starter. This is his first start of 2008. It often wasn't pretty, but he always seemed to manage the game in Toronto and got great defense behind him a year ago. Here's Michael Palmer, the Ranger, with a first down as Jock Climby mentioned. Ian Logan the tackle. Let's go to the other sidelines and the quarterback, Matt Dunnigan.
Whoa, I don't know if you can see on my shoulder here, but I can tell you what, there's a whole lot of coaching going on. Whole lot of question marks with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now. People are looking at each other, looking left and right, asking themselves, what do we need to do? Right now, Saskatchewan's got it rolling for them right here in their own backyard at Mosaic.
And you know, a couple of hours ago, it felt like it was the Bombers coming in here with the momentum. Michael Bishop backpedals, sets up the screen, and Henri Childs is hit by Logan. Back-to-back tackles by the safety out of Laurier, the Waterloo native, Ian Logan.
And Ian Logan is the guy who put Weston Dressler out of this game early on the interception by Anthony Marlborough. It was Logan who made that hit, and a good hit there. A little bit of a question mark coming in as to whether or not Ian Logan could step into the shoes of Kelly Malvo from 2 weeks ago in their last game. I think that Logan is solid. He doesn't play out of position. He's not out of place by any means, but in the first few games did not step up and really take the position. Playing better today.
2nd and 9. Pressure again from Gavin Walls. Bishop gets it away. Jump ball. Incomplete. And Javon Johnson, who has a Grey Cup ring as a member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, was the closest man to the ball, intended for Henri Childs.
3rd down.
Bishop extended that play as just about as long as he could. Joe Lobendon, number 58, he's trying to fill the hole and see if he can bounce to the outside and cut him off. And Lobendon gets cut off himself. It was Glenn January, a low bridge there.
Luca Kanji has to punt in place of the injured Jamie Borum. Gets away a good one. Hangs up for Armstead, 25. And a no-yards flag is tossed. Somebody was just inside the 5-yard restraining area. 40-yard kick by Kanji, subbing for the injured Jamie Borum. Well, this offense has to get going under Kevin Glenn, and a real departure from the last performance against Hamilton.
No yards, Saskatchewan, number 35, 15-yard penalty, first down.
So Brandon Lynch, and it is a 15-yard penalty.
You know, and the last game against Hamilton, when they had that success, and Kevin Glenn was just shy of 300, but the key in that game was Charles Roberts, and the fact that he had success in that game. He had 145 yards rushing, he had 23 carries. In that game, when the running game was established, it looked like a different offense. They haven't been able to do that this afternoon.
Roberts still 40 yards away from 10,000. Will cut into it here. Best run of the game, cut down after a 9-yard pickup.
Safety Scott Gordon made the tackle, or that could have been more. That was the best run of the game, really, for Charles Roberts. And Charles Roberts, if he can get going, well, that's the difference for the Winnipeg offense. You always hear that offenses try and take what the defense gives you. Well, the defense for Saskatchewan, for the most part, has taken him away, taken Charles Roberts away.
2nd in the yard. Graham Bell, Charles Roberts in the eye, and it will be Roberts. Outside, first down, across midfield. Brought down by Sean Lucas.
So when if you think about it this way, rather than say take what the defense gives you, you could say take advantage of the weakness of the defense. If the strength of the defense, and right now for Saskatchewan the strength is run stopping, then what you can take advantage of possibly is matchups in the intermediate or deep zones throwing the football. Because Kevin Glenn has not been able to execute that part of the game plan, this Bomber offense is bogged down.
Final minute of this third quarter. Again, the Bombers have not been able to capitalize on whatever wind advantage we have here so far. One quick hitter, Robbie Bryant, and he's taken down again. Lucas the stop at the Saskatchewan 47.
It's Eddie Davis who again told me before the game that he was going to allow a couple of these. In other words, he's going to play off of Robbie Bryant, take away the deep stuff, make him work for everything he gets, and give him those 6-7 yards and a headache.
Another big play, final play, third quarter. And it's 2nd and 3. Again behind Graham Bell. Roberts left side, first down to the 42-yard line. And a penalty marker deep in the Saskatchewan secondary.
It was real deep and quite late. Penalty flag. Play was almost over when the flag came out. If they're talking to Eddie Davis, it's giving Eddie Davis and Saskatchewan the options and likely against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
And we're told that center Dominic Picard might be the guy involved. The fiery center who made a big difference in his return to the lineup off a high ankle sprain.
Major foul, necessary roughness. Winnipeg number 53 is a dead ball foul. It's a 15-yard penalty from the point ball dead. First down Winnipeg.
That's a costly penalty when it looked like they had something going.
This is where the offensive line are cruising. They cruise the piles, and look at number 19, James Johnson, and here comes the hit, but that was way too late. And that hit there will cost Winnipeg some yards. Now, offensive line like to do that, but you can do it to the echo of the whistle and no longer.
We're at a point in the game here where we're switching ends and maybe marching the wrong way. And as the officials, Ken Lazar's crew, now marching it back closer to midfield. So not time to switch ends yet. With the penalty, we've got one more play in.
They're trying to get organized. They're trying to get where, with the penalty yards, where the ball should be placed, and they went to switch it, but at a penalty at the end of the quarter, you have to run the one more play before the quarter is officially over, so they had to bring the ball all the way back and have it going in. Well, now we are going.
So we'll take a timeout, get set for the fourth quarter here at Mosaic. Third quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
The elements chipping away at these offenses. Just 174 for Winnipeg, 185 for Saskatchewan. Not this huge offensive explosion we thought there might be with the lineup that Kevin Glenn had, with Edwards back and Milt Stiegel and Derek Armstrong all together, but the elements have played a factor.
It has, and we've seen a better Saskatchewan defense than we did in the two losses, where they were, as Scott Schultz said, gashed by two opponents.
Well, that one sack that Scott Schultz got, again, it was just the discipline that he showed there. Again, that's the difference. They've taken away the gaps. Now, Charles Roberts in that last series has started to get a couple runs, but other than that, they've been solid against the run, the Saskatchewan defense.
Got Roberts 15 yards away from 10,000, but the big concern is getting some points on the board. It is a first down, Winnipeg. Back at the 53, Kevin Glenn over the middle, and that went off the turf. Incomplete. Intended for Armstrong.
Jennifer number 83, Derek Armstrong. Second down.
Derek Armstrong needs to just put the brakes on there. He continued to run thinking that Glenn was going to continue to get the corner, and he didn't. And that's why the ball was thrown in behind him.
Second and 10. Lots of time, airing it out, and a battle downfield, incomplete. Intended for Terrence Edwards, who was matched up on the linebacker, Sean Lucas.
That's interesting that Kevin Glenn has the whole third quarter to try and push the ball deep with whatever wind is left at his back, and he waits until they change ends, and he's going into the wind, and then he goes to Terrence Edwards up on top. And they create a matchup where they get the linebacker, Sean Lucas, in coverage. Now, I say linebacker loosely. Sean Lucas is a DB tweener. Not a bad matchup for Saskatchewan, really.
Cerna boots it away. Good kick. And Johnson reversing his field. Nice run by James Johnson, and Greg Bierman finally hauls him down. Well, the CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Future Shop. From MP3 players to laptops, get everything you need this back to school at Future Shop. Well, the fans haven't seen much offense in the second half, but I don't think they mind. Most of them don't.
Most of them can't feel a thing.
Whoa. There's a botched shotgun snap, but Bishop's a chance to reload, and then Tom Canada brings it down. That ball loose. Who's got it? And is it Glenn January that vacuums it up and saves the day for the Roughriders?
Well, the combination of Tom Canada and Jerome Haywood caused some problems early as Bishop gets a good hop. And it looked like he was trying to load it up to go deep. Tom Canada's right at the bottom. Now he gets a good hop. He's going to load it up here thinking he's going to go deep. But Haywood flushes him out of that spot. And then Canada comes back. He continues to give you that second effort. Ball bounces around. Glenn January saves the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Defensive coordinator Greg Marshall just can't believe that opportunity slipped through the fingers of their defensive line.
Nevertheless, a loss of 14. Backing the Roughriders up to their 10. Wes Cates, some positive yards back before he's taken down by Joe Lobendon.
Well, that's managing the game. Remember, John Climby talked about managing the game and not necessarily trying to win the game on every play. And you know, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have the 16-point lead. Ken Miller goes with a draw play. That's a good call when you have 2nd and 24. To give your punter a little room. He's got the wind at his back, and in this case for Saskatchewan, after that first play, punting the ball is a good thing.
So Kanji has the wind at his back. High kick, not deep. Armstead from his 52, ducked under the first wave, and great field position for Winnipeg, trying to get something going in the fourth. Kevin Glenn's got great starting position here on this drive at the Saskatchewan 50. The defense has done its job in the second half. 5 rider possessions, 4 punts and a field goal, 4 2-and-outs. This offense has to get going. Just 171 net yards of offense today.
Charles Roberts barely put his helmet on as they broke the huddle. That's how little they've used him now.
Glenn looks back the other way. Ball caught, and away goes Derek Armstrong. And he's out at the 32-yard line. Scott Gordon comes across the safety. And it's an 18-yard pickup for Armstrong, who heads to the bench and looks like he's favoring that sore calf.
Well, when he first fought off the first tackle, Kevin Glenn's going to fake it here and then go backside. It's fake to roll out to his left and flip around quickly and dump it back to Armstrong, who comes back to the football. Now, when he broke that tackle there, he had to cut off that sore leg, and he's over there resting up right now.
First and 10, Winnipeg. Rough Rider 32, and they're going to try the double reverse. Terrence Edwards. And the Rough Riders were not fooled.
Well, Kevin Glenn looked up Shante Williams, the defensive end for Saskatchewan, and sort of, I think he decided, you know, between blocking him and being in second down, I like second down.
Yep, 6'6", 265. As we head downstairs and join Jock Climbing.
I had a chance to talk to some of the guys on the sideline. Marcus Adams, their run-stopping D lineman, and Anton McKenzie, linebacker. They're saying they're doing a much better job of stopping Charles Roberts against the run this week because they're all staying in their gaps. Gap cancellation is the name of the game, and we saw it there on that reverse. Everyone is just staying in their positions and not overrunning the play.
Roberts held to 43 yards. 2nd and 7. And this play has been stopped. And it looks like a time count violation. Or is it?
Well, just a
time count violation. Winnipeg number 5. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
And Winnipeg and the Bombers will have to throw here, but just to explain for those who don't know what gap cancellation is, basically, there's a gap between the center and guard and tackle and outside on the offensive line, and the defense's responsibility is to try and cancel each one of those gaps.
5 yards back, it's 2nd and 13. 6 receivers out. Here comes the rush. Glenn stands in underneath. Charles Roberts is brought down immediately by Mike McCullough.
Well, Mike McCullough he's trying to set everything up, and Kitwana Jones and he are have some problems, or is it Maurice Lloyd? But McCullough's to the left of your screen. He starts up there, then he realizes he's got to bump everybody over, and he comes over to pick up for Kitwana Jones, who is supposed to be the end on the left side. So Mike McCullough, the backup linebacker, comes in, organizes everything, then makes the tackle.
6-year man out of St. Francis Xavier. And so, into the wind, Alexis Serna's got a tough one from 38 out. And Serna puts it up and through. So he is 2 for 2. And it's now a 13-point Rider lead. The CFL on TSN, brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people. Well, it has not been a classic yet. 10-12 to go. This defense of Saskatchewan has been tough. Here's Vincent Marshall on the return. He's had a good day, replacing Weston Dressler. And up to the 53-yard line.
Field position where the Saskatchewan Roughriders can look back to number 20. They've had some problems in this second half. Michael Bishop, some communication issues with his receivers in the second half, but gone away from Wes Cates a little bit.
Cates, and Bishop's on his horse and has a first down, sliding into Winnipeg territory at the 47-yard line.
Well, they use him as a fake here with Wes Cates. They try and influence the defense by faking it to him. Wes Cates right there. and watch the fake into the line. That influences Gavin Walls, gets him to go way down, and even Anthony Marlborough double checked Cates there and didn't get contained on Bishop, who can easily get the 10 yards needed.
So Michael Bishop now 49 yards rushing on the day. Another fake to Cates, and 3 more on the ground for Bishop.
So here's the answer from Greg Marshall, the defensive coordinator. If the defensive ends are getting caught in the bind with that fake and Bishop getting outside, then put the middle linebacker Joe Lobend on to slide to the outside and secondary contain him, and he'll end up coming right out here and jumping out, and here he comes, number 58. Now he'll jump out, contain him, force Bishop to go back in the middle, and now Bishop can't do anything with it.
2nd and 8. For Bishop, swinging it for Rob. Bang! Almost picked off. Javon Johnson couldn't bring it down. Amped about this game against his former team, was cut after an exchange with Kent Austin. And he was anxious to play this game, and there was a missed opportunity for the Bomber defense.
Well, he has a couple of interceptions. The Bombers as a secondary don't have a bunch. Kelly Malvo had one coming in. He had 2. He was the leader. And that one is just right in his hands and should have had it. Good position, well underthrown ball by Bishop, who has the wind at his back.
So Luka Kanji to attempt a 52-yarder. This would be the longest of the season for Kanji. And that one leaks right. Armstead in the end zone. Is he going to bring it out? He is. And that one will leave Winnipeg stranded on their 5-yard line. Well, we know return men have the green light on missed field goals, but...
Well, this is a mistake. This is a mistake by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because it's way too early in the game. You can see the reaction from the Saskatchewan Roughriders coaching staff. They got what they want. They missed a field goal, but they get the ball pinned Winnipeg deep because Armstead tried to run it out. Now, there's 3 decisions there. The coaches either tell them yes or no, one or the other, or you have the option. I'm not sure what Doug Barry gave to Armstead on that choice.
Average start of the game, Saskatchewan at their own 50. The Bombers at their 31, but even worse here at their 5. They swing it to Roberts. And Roberts ducks inside into the traffic, but positive yards for Charles Roberts. As we check in with Matt Dunnigan.
Yeah, guys, you're absolutely right. A lot of frustration on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers side about not conceding a single there, because it doesn't change anything if you do, because it's still a 2-possession game, and now they're giving up field position. I asked Coach Doug Barry on the sidelines if, in fact, he was thinking about considering changing quarterbacks at this time of the game. He said emphatically, no.
Well, we wondered about Ryan Dinwiddie. Kevin Glenn reestablished himself as number 1 in the last couple of weeks, but he has not been able to put points on the board. Here's Roberts straight ahead, has the first down on that 2nd and 2 carry.
You know, that mistake of running the football out and losing the field position that Matt Dunnigan talked about, this isn't the first time that's been an issue for the Bombers. We've had some problems with that throughout this season, and making that decision as to whether or not to come out of the end zone, give up the single point, and Matt's bang on. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. That point didn't, but that yardage may.
Charles Roberts now a dozen away from 10,000. Glenn, big screen, and Armstrong dragged down. Eddie Davis, the veteran, there to make sure there wasn't much damage done.
Now, apparently, Matt Dunnigan has also just said that the coaching staff did tell Armstead to run that football out. So there are times when the returner does not have the option. He's told by the coaching staff to either concede the single. Corey McDermott, the special teams coach, said to take it out.
Winnipeg's longest return of any kind this year, 34 yards. Edwards a catch. And up at the 30, another first down, and he was punished. And a guy who has rib problems anyway comes up wincing.
He gets tackled in the open field. I'm not sure it was the initial tackle that hurt him, but it was Anton McKenzie's hustle from the backside, and that hit kind of jammed him down on those ribs.
Goes down. Kevin Glenn, another quick hitter, and that ball came loose. And play has been halted. Are they going to rule a catch for Romby Bryant? Looks like it. At the Bomber 35.
Well, let's take a look if that was out. I know the crowd reacted in a big way that was a fumble, a catch and a fumble by Romby Bryant. Now he catches this one here, turns. Here comes the hit from Lucas, and
quick whistle. Challenge flag is out at the Rough Rider sidelines.
It depends on when the whistle blew, but was his knee down, and was the ball out of his possession, because this has come up. In fact, it's come up at Taylor Field with Michael Palmer a few games back, when a fumble looked like it happened, but it was ruled that it wasn't, because it wasn't completely out of the possession of the receiver. In fact, it was loose in his hands, but not where he had lost possession. And I'm not sure if the knee didn't touch while the ball was loose, but did Romby Bryant lose possession of the ball?
Saskatchewan's challenging the ruling on the field of a catch.
So the challenge is whether or not Romby Bryant had it long enough for a catch.
Well, I think he had it long enough for a catch. I mean,
and knee down there.
Yeah, now is that losing possession, or is it just loose in his hand? Now he loses possession there, but his knee had already touched. But the challenge, did I get that right? That the challenge is whether it was a catch or not?
Catch, yes. Not a fumble recovery, but whether this is a completion.
It looked like he had it long enough, and the question to me was whether or not it was a fumble. Now maybe they blew the whistle too quickly, and then therefore the fumble was not part of the issue. And again, just to remind fans that an official, when they're going to review a play and the coach is asked to review whether or not that is a catch or not, if they see something in the replay monitor that is reviewable, they can rule on that as well, even though that wasn't the challenge.
After reviewing the play, the receiver's knee was on the ground when the fumble. The play stands as it is, a completed pass.
Yeah, so that's what they were talking about. So the challenge was whether or not it was a catch or not. They ruled that was a catch. They also reviewed whether or not it was a fumble, but they ruled that Romby Bryant did not lose control of the ball. It was loose in his hands, but his knee touched and he was down.
So it's 2nd and 4, 5th play of the drive that started back on the Bomber 5-yard line, less than 5 to play. And R.J. Franklin has that one hop into his hands, incomplete.
Here's what the Saskatchewan's defense have forced the Winnipeg offense into doing, and Kevin Glenn. They've taken away Charles Roberts in the run game, and they forced Kevin Glenn to try and release the football quickly. He's got to get it out of his hands, so it's all this little quick, hot type of routes. Charles Roberts is gonna block the blitz from the backfield. Roberts picks it up there, but because of the blitz and the aggression from the Saskatchewan defense, this is really all that's left for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Richie Hall has them throwing that quick game because that's their only option.
Cerna boots it away. Good kick. And Marshall. Check that. James Johnson, the return, up to the 37-yard line. And it's time now for our game story, brought to you by MGD. Nothing to hide.
Well, you know, there's two storylines coming in. One, Michael Bishop, and we talked about him at length, and he's played pretty well considering the circumstances. That's, to me, the big story right there. That one right there. The Rider defense is the story that has really changed the complexion of this game, because really thought that Kevin Glenn, with his weapons back, would have a better day than he's had.
Wes Cates goes to work. as they try and chew up yards in the clock here. Gates to the 45, has 7 with just over 4 minutes remaining.
In that third quarter, when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had the wind at their back and had a chance to maybe establish something, get something going offensively, Kevin Glenn just couldn't. He turned the ball over a couple of times. The Saskatchewan defense took away that third quarter, ate it up, and that's put the Bombers in a hole.
Second and 2, 2.5. Gates puts his head down and then gets driven back as Jerome Haywood comes up with a much-needed stop for the Bombers. Let's see what forward progress is, however. And it looks like the Roughriders are going to be a yard short.
Well, it makes for an interesting decision for Ken Miller, without question. If they are that yard short, they are going to go ahead and measure it. The inside of a yard is almost automatic.
Definitely that.
And it's definitely that. So, interesting decision, though, when you have an opportunity here. It's an automatic deal for most coaches. That looked like a little bit of a nervous smile almost from Ken Miller, but boy, if you don't get it, if there's a fumble or a problem with the exchange at center, remember, Michael Bishop, new to this football team, does it ever give the Bombers some momentum?
Boys hunkered down. Bishop with the push, and he should have it. Behind the veteran center, Jeremy O'Day, celebrating his 34th birthday today. It'll be a pretty good celebration if this score holds.
Well, yeah, and you know, Jeremy O'Day, he needs to get a lot of credit. New quarterback under the center, and Jeremy O'Day has got him the ball every single time.
Now they're giving the 3-minute warning to the benches. 19-6, Saskatchewan in charge. CFL on TSN continues tomorrow. The annual Labor Day Classic doubleheaders. Game 1, Battle of Alberta. Eskimos take on the Stamps, sold out McMahon Stadium. And in Game 2, the Battle of Ontario. The Argos take on the Tiger Cats. They tell us there's still some tickets available at Ivor Wynn. Live coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern.
No tickets left at McMahon, I know that.
It's down for Michael Bishop. Wes Cates off the left side to midfield for Cates.
Both these teams have done a nice job defensively. Wes Cates just 13 carries, 62 yards. That's his 14th, so we'll add a little bit to that total, but 28 yards receiving. And then Saskatchewan's defense dominant against Charles Roberts. Just 49 yards rushing for Roberts. He's only caught 4 passes for 16. The defense is, with a little help from Mother Nature, done a nice job against these two good running backs.
Bombers expected so much more with all their weapons back. Michael Bishop on a roll. Dumps it off. Palmer incomplete as he tried to take that off his shoe tops and thinks he did make the catch. And so it's 3rd down. Michael Palmer wants the challenge, and they'd have to go upstairs to do that.
And that's who Michael Palmer is talking to. Inside of 3 minutes, it's the official upstairs that has to go to the replay, to a challenge. May have an argument that he got his hands underneath that and scooped it off the turf.
Dave Hawkshaw, the line judge, said no. And so the Bombers are going to get the ball back with just over 2 minutes to go. And play has been stopped as the fan makes his way onto the field and quickly off.
Well, and the play has been stopped, and I wonder if that gives time for the official to maybe look at whether or not he would like to challenge that. There hasn't been any challenge yet. Because that was first down territory, was it not, for Michael Palmer?
Yes, it was.
And that would keep Kevin Glenn right there.
And wouldn't that add insult to injury if a Saskatchewan fan stalled enough to get this play reviewed?
Well, now when I look at it again, it looked like it might have bounced into his hands. And there was an official right on the spot.
He was all over it. Palmer was pretty adamant, but we're going to get a change of possession. Luke Kakanji's done a decent job filling in for the injured Jamie Borum, and Sean Lucas downfield first, so a loss of yardage on the return by Armstead.
And on the field comes the story of this football game, which is the Saskatchewan Roughrider defense. You mentioned the talent that was back in the receiving core and the lineup for the Bombers. Kevin Glenn was coming off his best game of the year a couple weeks ago versus Hamilton. But this Saskatchewan defense played the way they have played for the 6-0 start and not the way they played the last two games. Very disciplined up front, linebacking core flying around, and secondary doing a nice job on the receivers, keeping them in front of them.
Number one in fewest yards surrendered this year. Glenn looking downfield, Armstrong's open. Derek Armstrong finally stretching that Saskatchewan defense. And they'll mark him out at the Roughrider 49.
That's the first time all game long that they were able to get in behind him. Again, the secondary's done such a nice job for Saskatchewan of keeping the Bombers in front of them, and that was just a communication error from Omar Morgan, who is the guy who's going to push Armstrong out of bounds, but he got caught way inside, and that was a broken coverage, something you don't often see from Saskatchewan.
Longest play of the game for Winnipeg, longest play of the year for Armstrong, and now Edwards back inside. He'll be taken down by James Johnson. Minute 56 remaining, quick score, and things get interesting.
Absolutely, and it is the Labor Day weekend, and things are always interesting on this day. All of a sudden, a little room for Kevin Glenn to throw the football.
Only Anthony Calvillo and Henry Burris have had 300-yard passing games against the Roughriders this season. And only Calvillo has had more than one touchdown pass in a game against the Roughriders. Quarterback option. And Anton McKenzie with the tackle on Kevin Glenn.
And that was a big play by McKenzie because he had Charles Roberts. He had the back out of the backfield. Reacted to that and was able to come back down underneath. Anton McKenzie's going to slide to the outside. Now watch this. He's going to fake this way and look like he's going to take Roberts, and then what he does is step up and actually tackle Kevin Glenn.
First and 10 at the 38. And Stiegel's got another catch in front of Sean Lucas, stopping the clock with a minute 31.
And looks like he is limping a little bit again. I agreed with Jock early on, who said that Milt Stiegel has looked as good running as he has all year. Probably going to not practice the entire season so that he can save it all for game time. He closes the gap on Alan Pitts.
Third catch for 38. Bombers offense coming to life. Is it too late? Glenn looking into the corner, and Omar Morgan shrink-wrap coverage on Robbie Bryant.
Well, you know, for the first few plays of the series, there was the busted coverage from Omar Morgan. He's the guy who's now locked down on Robbie Bryant, who is on the outside right here. Robbie Bryant takes off Omar Morgan playing that cushion coverage. He's off him, and then he locks him down here on the outside. Now they're starting to tighten up again. They probably gave Winnipeg a little bit of room early in this series, but realize there's still time.
Yeah, that old prevent defense doesn't work, does it?
CFL is tough to do it.
Second and 10. On a roll. It opens up. And Kevin Glenn ditches it off. And Milt Stiegel punished by James Johnson. And you could hear that throughout the stadium.
Well, Johnson was flying up there because all the options for Kevin Glenn were gone. At that point, the only option option was Stiegel. All the other options were gone, and Johnson knew it. So he just tracked down Stiegel and put his helmet right in the middle of his back.
That's a 6-yard gain. It is 3rd and 4. And the Bombers' hopes all rest now on this. Glenn to keep it going. And he has the first down, and Terrence Edwards is inside the 5 with 63 seconds on the clock. Bombers aren't done.
Well, they want to make sure they can save as much time as they can, get out here and possibly even just throw the ball quickly. A running play down in here is usually what a team would go for in most circumstances, but I'm not sure that Kevin Glenn will do it now because the clock is his enemy.
Drive started at the 18. Glenn sets up, and he's taken down. Maurice Lloyd took down Glenn, and he wants a penalty for the headshot.
And so does the coaching staff for the Bombers, who are halfway out on the field. They thought that that was a shot to the head on the quarterback, which is being called every single time without hesitation this year. Now, Kevin Glenn does try and duck the hit and step up in there, but clearly you could see the right arm of Maurice Lloyd up over the head and face mask of Kevin Glenn, who doesn't get the call.
You know, I agree. It's called most of the time. I'm not sure they shouldn't have called it on Shante Williams early in the game. Here's Glenn again. In the end zone, intercepted. Lance Frazier has a league-leading 5th interception of the year. And that will do it for the Roughriders.
And I'm not sure if Kevin Glenn overthrew his short target or underthrew Terrence Edwards. Either way, Lance Frazier is in the right place at the right time. There's Edwards, who tries to go in behind him. And the aggressive play by Lance Frazier to step up and not allow him to run his route and make him bubble behind the route forces the interception. Kevin Glenn looks to the official. What about that last one? Not going to happen.
So Kevin Glenn, who tossed 13 interceptions in all of 2007, has just thrown his 12th of this season at the halfway point. And the celebration is on here at Mosaic. The 2-game losing streak has been halted. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders will hit the halfway point of the season in the lead in the Western Division at 7-2.
I want to show you this one more time. This is aggressive play by Lance Frazier and a key play. Edwards wanted to go inside, and look at him eliminate it. He stepped in front of it. He said, no, you're not getting in there. That's where the ball was thrown. That ends the football game. Lance Frazier, aggressive play, earned that interception.
A defense that allowed 57 points in the last 2 games, but just 6 here this afternoon against Kevin Glenn's Winnipeg Blue Bomber offense. And so it'll be back to the drawing board in Winnipeg as they reload it for the Banjo Bowl next Sunday.
And that will give Michael Bishop, as they look to move to 7-2, a chance to get a little more of the playbook, a little more comfortable with his receivers. Darian Durant will be more healthy next week and probably ready to be number 2.
Not sure what this meeting is all about. Both teams huddling it up here. And while we have this opportunity, time for today's TSN Turning Point.
Well, the TSN turning point in this one was early on in the football game. A limited playbook for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Michael Bishop, but he does what he does best, and that's use his athletic ability to get it done, and he uses his strong legs and running ability to get that early touchdown, which puts the Riders in the lead, and they were in the lead the entire game.
TSN Turning Point brought to you by the 2008 GMC Sierra Professional Grade. 7-2. A guy named Carey will be in action tomorrow on Labor Day in Hamilton. Wes Cates, a little sidestep, and then driven back with a half-minute to go.
Well, a guy like Carey now at the controls for Saskatchewan. Michael Bishop, who was behind Kerry Joseph in Toronto in the big trade this week, was a huge news story about what we expected from Michael Bishop. Some problems in the passing game, some problems with his communication with his receivers, but he used his legs, he ran the ball effectively, and did enough to manage this game and win it for Saskatchewan.
And he found out he's playing alongside another great defense, as was the case in the past in Toronto. As they wind it down, they'll have to put a knee down one more time. The Roughriders defense stepped up to be sure today in support of a new quarterback. And the fans in green enjoying the countdown here at Mosaic. It'll go into the books as a 19-6 victory for Ken Miller's crew. The two-game losing streak is done. Ken Miller's Saskatchewan Roughriders move to 7-2, and the Blue Bombers fall to 2-7. 19-6 the final. So long from Mosaic Stadium. SportsCenter's next.